Hi and welcome to another one of my online painting lessons. For this lesson we're using a 16 by 20 inch canvas, and I'm going to be using some titanium white, raw umber, phthalo blue, and amethyst, which is a purple color. You could pretty much use ultramarine violet. You could probably substitute alizarin crimson for this as well if you don't have amethyst. For my medium I have Neo McGilt, and you could use liquid if you don't have that. You could also use a 50-50 mix of odorless mineral spirits and linseed oil. Okay, so let's get started here. I've got a medium round brush. I'm going to take some of that Neo McGilt, and I'm going to take some of my phthalo blue, some of my raw umber. So we've got a really dark color here. And what I want to do is block in some cloud shape. So just using the negative space here to create the cloud shape. We're going to have this cloud kind of building up this way. You can see have it go right up off the top of the canvas. So I'm going to mix a little bit more of that same color. Just get it a little bit thicker here on the canvas. Okay, so once I kind of have my overall shape here, what I'm going to do next is take a little bit of raw umber, some phthalo blue, some amethyst, a little bit of white. And what I'm going to do now with this kind of purplish gray color is block in a shadow area down at the base. So we're going for kind of a purplish gray, and we're going to go a little bit of a diagonal right here, and then flatten out up here. And we'll flatten it out up here a little bit. So I'm going to leave a little gap right here, so there's a little white space. I'm going to go a little bit more amethyst as we go back here off into the distance. I'll block that in straight across right here. Okay, next I'm going to stick with that same color combination. A little bit more white this time. I'll go a little bit more white, so we'll go a little bit brighter. Just a slight bit more amethyst. And I'm going to block in right up close to the edge of the sky there, and then I want to block all the way down to my shadow. Not worried about brush strokes or anything like that at this point. Okay, bring it down here. We're just going to block in everything all the way across. Try to get the paint even across the canvas. We're just leaving that little gap. We're not overlapping into the sky. We're going to let the big brush that we use do all that. So I'm going to add a little bit more white, a little bit more amethyst. Not quite that much amethyst. We want it kind of purplish here. Just a little bit lighter down here. We're going to fill in these little white gaps with that color. Okay, then what I'm going to do is take a large background brush, nice and dry, and I'm going to just brush all of this together. Really kind of light brush strokes. We want the cloud to fade into the sky a little bit. Okay, and then brushing all the way down. What we want to really make sure is that we're getting rid of all of the really bright white canvas. You want to have at least a layer of paint over everything. So if you have any little white specks showing through, you want to keep blending until you get that covered up. You can wipe your brush off as you pick up some excess paint. Then down here, just vary the shape of your brush stroke. Crisscross back and forth, maybe some long. What that does is it blurs everything out in different directions. That creates kind of a more atmospheric look. Okay, I'm going to put a little bit more pressure right here where the shadow and the highlight meet, and then brush that together. So do some really light brush strokes here, kind of fading this stuff together a little bit more. Okay, next I'm going to take a flat brush, and I've got some cadmium orange and cadmium red light. I'm going to take some of my Neo McGilp, take a little bit of that cad red light, and over here on the right hand side I'm going to put a little red strip coming through right here. Then I'm going to take a little bit of my amethyst, mix that in with the cad red. We'll continue that this way. Then more amethyst as we get further to the left, and just kind of fade that together. Okay, then what I want to do is take my blending brush. We're going to fade this together by just lightly brushing. Fade it out a little bit more on the left-hand side. Okay, then I'm going to take my flat brush. I'm going to take a little bit of my raw umber, and I'm just going to create a little bit of a river or stream. So down here, this will be our land coming up. Just going to block that in for now. I'm going to go a little bit of raw umber in that kind of amethyst mix. And over here we'll go a little bit darker. Bring that straight across. And maybe we'll have a little piece of land right here. All right, then what I'm going to do, I'm going to clean that brush off a little bit. I'm going to take a little bit of my red, a little amethyst, and then the first part of the water here, we're going to go kind of with that reddish color. And then we want to try to mimic the colors up top, so I'm going to go a little bit more amethyst, blue, my phthalo blue, and raw umber. We'll start a little bit more amethyst down lower. Okay, and then we'll get darker as we get up here in the foreground. All right, and then what I want to do is blend it all together again. So I'm going to just lightly brush. I want to pull this down a little bit more, this red. So just pulling down a little bit, brushing side to side. And we'll brush over everything. Okay, next I'm going to go back into my cloud color up here. I'm going to add a little white to that. And we're going to start kind of cutting out some contour shape. I kind of have an interesting shadow going on right here, so I'm just going to emphasize that area a little bit. Then I'll take my blending brush, feather that together a little bit. Okay, I'm going to keep that same color on the brush and just go down a little bit lower. So I'm still cutting out some contour shape. Almost pushing this piece here out in front because I'm going to work this color down underneath a little bit. And we'll feather. Okay, I'm going to keep that same highlight color going. We're almost going to just kind of cut out this whole little cloud here. That's coming out in front a little bit. I'm going to go a little bit more white. And over here, I'm going to go even brighter. And I'm going to cut out another little contour right here. And I'll feather this together. Really light brush strokes. Okay, so now within, I'm going to use that same color, but within this cloud that's kind of out in front, I'm going to cut out another dark contour right here, and then just work this color up. And we'll feather that together. Now I really want to emphasize, I'm going to feather this together a little bit more. I want it to be really subtle. All of this stuff should be subtle right now. Okay, I really want to emphasize up top a little bit more, so I'm going to take some more white. Maybe a little amethyst. And now I want to maybe hit a little bit of a smaller spot. And what I want to do is, again, cut out a dark contour, so down below what I'm painting, I'm thinking about that contour shape here. And then we'll feather this together lightly. Okay, that same color, I'm going to come down a little bit more. I'm going to cut up into this contour a little bit. And then again, feathering everything out. Okay, I want to emphasize this little cloud up here a little bit more, so a little bit of a highlight right here. And we'll work that up. Okay, I'll stick with that highlight color that we've been using here, and I'll do a little bit of maybe a little random deep highlight that comes down in behind this contour. Do a little Bit of contouring over here. So all of this dark stuff you're basically cutting out with your white, keeping it pretty random. As you can see, I'm just kind of cutting out these contour shapes, not really thinking about anything too specific. I'm just looking and breaking the cloud up into pieces and just trying to keep all of these little shapes random. So always cutting out a little bit of a darker contour. I'm going to cut out a little bit underneath here. Okay, I'm going to cut out a little bit of a flat spot here. Basically what I'm going to do is create this little piece as almost as an individual cloud. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit of amethyst into that highlight color that I'm using. Do a few little horizontal brush strokes, brush down a little bit. Okay, with that amethyst color, maybe I'll come up here and I'll lighten up this side of the cloud a little bit more. Okay, I'm going to let that top part sit for a little bit. I'm going to take my flat brush again. I'm going to go into a little bit of my Neo-Magilp, some of my Cad Red. We're going to open up this red spot here. Then I'll take my blending brush, brush up and down, side to side, lightly. A little bit more pressure on the edges. So out here on the left, a little more pressure over here on the right. Less pressure in the middle. Okay, then I'll take that same color, and now I want to reflect it right here in the water. Okay, and then brush that together. I'm going to extend the red down just a little bit. Again, brushing it together. Okay, I'm going to go into that red. Now I'm going to add some cad orange to that. Just going to hit a smaller spot. Brush it together. A little more pressure here again on the ends. Then a little bit of that reflected down here. I'll try to keep that level, that line nice and even, and really mimic the width. Okay, I'll come back to that again a little bit later. In the meantime, I'm going to go back to my white, smaller round brush now. We're going to do some highlights on the cloud. Just picking a few spots to go a little bit brighter. I'm still thinking about contours underneath these highlights as I add this in. But the contours don't all have to be connected. And we'll lightly brush that together. Okay, while I'm down here, what I want to do is take and kind of line up a few little of my contours in the water, and then just brush those together. Start working up some of these highlights a little bit into this darker piece. Okay, then I'll go over on this side underneath the cloud, or underneath this part of the cloud, just to try to emphasize the separation a little bit right through here. All right, while I have this color going, I'm going to come over here and paint in a moon shape. So just a circle, basically. Try to get a little bit more round. Then really light pressure on this brush. Do side to side, up and down. I'll go again with another round of that color. Go within that circle a little bit. Then side to side, up and down. So you want to keep working this circle until you get a nice shape. A little oblong right now, so I want to add a little shape to it. Okay, I'm going to go into that slightly lighter color now. I want to add in just a little bit of a highlight down over here. Again, just random. No real reasoning for where you put them. It's just you want to try to cut out lots of random shapes in your clouds. So I figured this part over here, a little more bulky, not as much detail, so might as well add a little in. Okay, within this cloud here, a little bit more shape. Okay, I'm going to put a few little drifting clouds up here in the sky. I'll do the same over here. A couple little, maybe a bigger drifting cloud right here. Just making a cloud shape, basically, and then just blending it into the sky. Okay, I'm going to go into my white. Lighten up that color a little bit more. And now really carefully just going around in a circle. Okay, then a really light brush up and across. I'm going to go to a small round brush. I'll take a little bit of white and my cad orange. I'm going to lighten this up just a tad and then down in the water. Want to mimic that, maybe a couple little orangish highlights here coming down through, not too much. Maybe I'll do a little orange kind of a little orangish highlight along the back here. Really light brush stroke. Okay, so that completes our painting lesson. If you have any questions, you can email me at tim@timgagnon.com or post your progress on the Facebook group page. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon.